Good evening and welcome to the programme with me, Louisa Preston. What should we do with children who repeatedly commit crime in London? Punish them, rehabilitate them, or try to do both? A review by the British youth justice system has found a new approach is badly needed and that education should be at the heart of the reforms. One nation which prides itself on the way it's been cutting youth reoffending is Spain. Our Home Affairs correspondent Nick Beake travelled to the southeast Spanish coast to find out how they do it and was given exclusive access to where young offenders are looked after.
Ay, John, madre mía. Ay, qué alegría, John.
It's a reunion neither of them could have imagined just a few years ago. John was a British young offender locked up abroad. Esther was one of those trying to help him, but he was one of the most difficult children they'd ever met. When he was 15 and on a family holiday in Alicante, John robbed a man at knife point and was jailed. But 3 years here changed him for good.
Before I come to this place, I was in England at least 8 times, 8 different centres with 8 different sentences, and I've come here and just the once in Spain, and that's it. They sorted me out just that one time. Like it's done the world of good for me. It's made me who I am today, basically.
Un abrazo no le doy muchos.
So how did Spain succeed where the UK failed? The La Zarza Re-Educational Centre in southeast Spain is probably the most striking youth prison in the whole of the country. Dangerous offenders are given axes to do gardening. They look after the goats and other animals, if they've been well behaved. This is the first time British cameras have been allowed in. We agreed not to show the teenagers' faces. Alex tells us he became a burglar at the age of 11, out of boredom. Now 14, he says he regrets what he did.
Pues al principio mal y luego te das cuenta de que de lo que
At the beginning, it's pretty tough. You don't know what you've got until you've lost it. You've got to get used to not having your friends and your family here. It's not like home. You can't eat what you want. You can't go out whenever you want.
The only time the prisoners here are in their rooms is for a 45-minute siesta and overnight. At Feltham Young Offenders Institution in West London, it can be as many as 23 hours a day. Here, they're kept occupied from dawn till dusk. With activities like beekeeping, as well as everything else they've got here, this is miles away from the youth prisons we're used to back in the UK. But the people who run this place insist it's not just about the environment and their surroundings. They say it's about the ethos, and they believe they can bring their philosophy to the UK.
Música de tambores, guayabas.
This sort of secure school, with a focus on education and rehabilitation, is now being considered for London by the Ministry of Justice. That's because the charity Digrama claim only 20% of the inmates leaving their Spanish prisons reoffend, much lower than the 67% rate in England and Wales. They say the one thing here that makes all the difference is the role of their educators, 24/7 mentors who give direction, discipline and endless encouragement to the inmates.
No podemos estar devolviéndole continuamente lo mal que lo has hecho.
You can't constantly be telling them you're bad, you're evil, you've killed someone. We won't get anywhere like that. We have to see the positive and make them aware of the damage they've done.
Y que se dé cuenta efectivamente también del daño que ha hecho.
There are 25 hours a week of classroom lessons on top of all the other activities. This system costs £70,000 per child per year. In similar-sized institutions back home, it's £163,000. The Spanish save money because they need far fewer staff to keep control.
Sobre todo muy cariñoso.
It's now visiting time. 15-year-old Cristiano attacked both his parents and put his 6-year-old brother in hospital. His mum, Deborah, says it's taken time, but finally her son is accepting the help that's on offer, and her family is complete again.
It's a miracle, we can say, because no way. It's not the same boy.
We have a new boy and we are very happy for him, yeah.
Of course, there are those who say all this is soft justice, a holiday camp for young criminals who don't deserve it and who should be punished more.
This is far away from a holiday camp. If you ask any kid here, they would say, I don't want to be here. They are not that fun. But we don't need to make them, how I will say, miserable because they have committed a crime.
John's return to Alicante has brought back many memories. It's been an emotional visit. But he's convinced that in the future, the Spanish approach could help the toughest young offenders in London.
Since I've been here, I've been talking to my friends, and I've kept quite a few of them out of trouble. They've changed their ways through the stuff that I've learned in Spain.
The British government agrees big changes are needed in the youth justice system. But will it really invest the time and money needed to make this a reality back home?
Well, Nick Beake joins me now. Nick, could this system work here?
Well, there would have to be huge changes, Louisa. If they did bring in the system, it certainly wouldn't look like the Spanish model straight away. We wouldn't see hordes of young offenders horse riding in Hounslow or beekeeping in Barnet overnight. But the people who run the Spanish system say that they could bring their methods to the existing institutions immediately. But will they get the chance to do that? The politicians are well aware that some people would have been watching that report at home, wanting to throw things at the television, saying, look, these are young offenders, they're dangerous, they've been sentenced, and really they should be forced to serve their time and be punished. And experts say that that public perception, that any sort of change to the system would constitute soft justice, that's something which has held back reform for decades.
When politicians start to think about running a system which is less restrictive, which allows more freedom to young people, which allows them more autonomy and things like that, they back off because they fear what the public will say, they fear what the media will say. So we are wedded to a system which prioritises security and containment over rehabilitation.
And Nick, there are other key differences with the Spanish system, aren't there?
Yeah, the law is different. For example, in Spain, the maximum a child can be sentenced to is 8 years. Over here, it can be a life sentence. Also, some of the children there, they're told when they go in that they'll be given day release pretty shortly. But crucially, every child spends the whole of their sentence in the same place, even if that means they're leaving when they're in their mid-20s. We know the Ministry of Justice is considering this Spanish model. How far will they go? What reforms will we see? We hope to find out more later in the summer.
Nick, very interesting. Thanks very much.